Hi guys, I'm Becca Otis from Five Lines Pottery, and I'm located in Van.
And I'm Ryan Durbin from RD Ceramics, located in Highland Heights, Kentucky.
And welcome to Wheel Talk.
Okay, so what type of voice do you want for this intro?
I don't
Give me a little
know.
direction.
It's we would like we would
Siri.
like Siri. We
Siri?
want Siri.
Really, that's what you want?
No,
Yeah.
she's a professional. Um, I don't know what adjectives to say here. We would like entrepreneurial, like we're tuning in for getting all the the best insights to like push our business in this year.
Okay.
Like
So
have a
I'm getting
successful year ahead.
great. So we're like amping people up a little bit. We're
Yeah,
we're
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 ready for
feeling
the year
positive.
ahead.
But we're feeling also a little professional. Okay, got it.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
You're listening to Wheel Talk with Becca Otis and Ryan Turbin. What the fuck? Take two. Okay. You're listening to Wheel Talk with Becca Otis and Ryan Durbin. I'm Taylor Swilly. Today's guest is Megan Auman.
Yay!
Woo! Thank you,
That'll be
Taylor.
$500.
It's amazing.
Megan, isn't that like the craziest thing to hear?
Yeah, that one just like blew my mind. I was not expecting that, and that is amazing.
It's my party trick. Hi, Megan. We're so happy to have you on the podcast today. Thank you for
Yes.
joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited.
So we just talked about Try and See. Is this that was probably your one of your oldest books that you wrote? Your
Yes, that's
first
actually
book?
the first book. This is the first book that I wrote. Yeah.
The first book. So we just
All right.
covered that in the book club.
It's
We
oldie but
learned
a
a
goodie.
we learned a little bit about you in the book club episode, but if you would like, how would you like to introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah, so I am an artist, a metalsmith, a writer, a teacher, a creative business coach. I basically wear all the hats, a lot of the hats, most of the time. So I have been doing this for, goodness, this is gonna sound scary, 20 years basically this year. So this is 20 years since I finished my MFA. I finished my
Okay.
MFA in 2006. I was a university professor for 1 year, realized I didn't want to be a university professor. Luckily, I was a sabbatical replacement, so it had an end date anyway, but I was already at that point kind of taking strides to launch my business. And then when my year was up, I taught adjunct on and off for a while, but I started running my business 2007, but we'll call it. It feels like 20 years at this point, so we'll call it that.
Yeah, that's basically 20 years. Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's a
you
long
really
time.
know your
Yeah.
shit.
yeah. It makes me feel wise. We'll call it wise.
Yeah,
Experienced.
you have a lot of
Yes.
experience, a lot of iteration, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because it seems like you didn't do all of those things over all those years. Were you
No.
more of a maker early on and then you kind
Yeah.
of
So I
added on the
started out.
additional roles?
Yep. So I started out predominantly as a maker. So both my degrees are in metalsmithing. My MFA thesis was actually sculpture, because I thought, when else in my life am I going to be able to make like big, wild sculptures? So let's do it now while I can. Um, and then I got out of school, focused on jewelry because it turns out there's not really a market for welded non-functional wire furniture. Shock. And I know,
Lame.
surprise, surprise, right? It's still, my thesis work is still some of my favorite stuff I've ever made. It hangs out in my studio. I love it. But I took the forms that I was making in wire and started turning those into jewelry. So I started with the craft show circuit, and then kind of fell by accident into wholesale. So people were talking about the New York International Gift Fair, which is what it was called at the time. Now it's New York Now. And I was like, I'll just apply to this and see. And then I got in and said yes and didn't know what I didn't know. So I just showed up. So that was kind of those first few
Wow.
years of my business. And then pretty quickly, I realized that there was an interest in, or kind of a need for, other artists and makers, helping other artists and makers with their businesses. And I was an entrepreneurship minor in college. My dad runs a machine shop that was founded by my grandfather. So I've always been really comfortable with the business side, with the numbers and pricing and all of those things. And so I I just sort of started teaching. Actually, I told someone that I should go get my MBA, and she was like, "No, that's silly. Just teach that stuff." So I sort of started doing that by accident, and it turns out that I really love teaching that stuff. And so, yeah. So, but that I kept running the jewelry business all along because one, that's important to me, and two, I use it as like a testing ground for the things that I'm teaching.
Nice. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So you get to like try it and see, does it work?
Exactly.
Would I recommend it to others, or what did
Right.
I learn? How can I help them? Okay.
Yeah, and it's really important to me in my teaching that like I'm what works in my business is not going to necessarily work in someone else's business. So just because I'm doing something doesn't mean that I'm telling all my students like you must do it this way. It's really important to me as a teacher to be paying attention to what their businesses look like, what their products or what their art looks like, and making those things, but I can always draw on like my own experiences too.
Ooh,
Did the teaching grow out of the blogging that you were doing, and you realized like, hey, there's a need or an interest in this, and people were seeking out? Do you have any like official courses or something that I can get more guidance rather than just reading about it?
Yeah, so the teaching did grow out of the blog. I basically started the blog because it was 2009 and I was like, I don't know, how do you teach stuff on the internet in 2009? I guess you start a blog.
Mm.
And so I started from there, but so now I teach in a couple different ways online. So I run an online mentorship program called Artists and Profit Makers, which anyone can go to at artistsandprofitmakers.com. So it's basically like part community, part mentorship, part training. So like every month we do a training. Every month I do a live Q&A with the group. We have a forum. So that's where I do kind of the bulk of my teaching now. But then I do run a handful of classes, all of which are just available on my main website, shop.meganauman.com. Basically on like whatever topics I feel like writing classes on, business or like business creative stuff. So some of my most popular classes are product photography. I have a class called Market Your Selfie, which literally teaches you how to take photos of yourself. But for jewelers in particular, that's a very useful skill to have when you can't find anyone else to model your work. So that was the thing I started doing for myself. And then I was like, you know what? I think other people might want to learn this. So let me write a class about it. It's still probably like my favorite class I've ever written, because it really combines like the art side and the business side in a way that feels really fun.
Nice. Becca, did I cut you off earlier when you were going to ask something?
oh yeah, I was wondering like what your kind of like mix up of students is like. Do you have any potters or ceramics people? Like, is it mostly jewelry people because that's your shtick, or like what kind of like what does it entail? Like, not specifically, but kind of like overall.
Yeah, so it is. I mean, I would say usually the majority are jewelers, but I work with lots of people, including ceramic artists. I love ceramic artists, so this is my little confession here, guys. Like, I don't do clay, because I find it too squishy. But I am the most passionate ceramics collector. Like, I have so many handmade ceramics. Literally, I do not drink out of something that's not a piece of handmade ceramics. It just doesn't happen. I have like mugs for tea, mugs for water, like cups for my iced tea, like cups for my iced coffee, like all of it handmade ceramics, really, really important to me. So yeah, I've gotten to work with some incredible ceramic artists through the years in my classes, and in my mentorship program. I know at least one of them has been on your podcast, which is Heidi.
We talk with Heidi all
Yeah.
the time. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love her so much.
yeah, we actually have a few people in common, I think, because I used to work for Rebecca Graves Prowse.
Oh yeah.
And she was like one of my best friends, and then Heidi, obviously. And
Mhm.
so yeah.
Are there unique aspects? Because like every medium has its own challenges, right? So is there any ceramic artists you talk with over the years that kind of have unique challenges from your mentorship that maybe other creatives don't have? Or do we all just feel like, oh, well, that doesn't apply to us because we're different? Our medium's
No,
different.
so
Or
yeah, so I think one of the conversations that I've been having a lot with one of my coaching students, and I haven't quite solved it yet. It's like still in the back of my head. Is we talk about like production time and figuring out your production capacity, but she's always like, but I have to figure out my kiln capacity as well.
Mhm.
And so one of these days, I promise I'm gonna finish that spreadsheet for you, Bree, and it's to help figure out like what is the best mix of products for each kiln. But honestly, like it's such not a problem for jewelers, especially because I'm not like some jewelers cast things. I don't cast. Everything I do is fabricated, and so it's like one of those things where I'm like, oh, that's like a whole other level of constraint. And then the other thing that's like that always I have to remind myself is very different is like your process is just so much longer. Like I can wake up in the morning and be like, I have an idea for a necklace, and like 2 hours later, it's done and it exists. Or like I can get an order and 2 hours later I can get it out the door. Whereas like
that sounds awesome.
right?
I was gonna say two
Whereas,
hours, more like 2 weeks.
yeah, no, like
at the
2 hours.
top
I have things in my line that I can make in like 7 minutes, right? Like start to finish, we're good, we're done.
So can I. It just takes 5 days.
Right, exactly. And so like having to think about those differences. But I appreciate that challenge. And like I said, like I'm never trying to force my solutions onto my students. I'm always trying to think about like what works for their businesses. And yeah, but so it's a fun challenge though, seeing like the differences in the production process of the medium.
Yeah, I feel like there's always the question of pricing, and pricing is around all the creative businesses. But I feel like with ceramics, with it being so lengthy and so many steps, and your hands touching it here, and then you're sitting it there, and you need to let it dry, but you need like 100 pieces to put in a kiln so you can actually fire the thing, and then it's like 2 or 3 weeks later, and you've touched it 18 times before it's done, and it's like, okay, how much time did I actually spend on that thing? It's like hard to do, and you're like,
Yeah.
I spent 7 minutes on this one thing, and it's very linear, and
Right.
it's easy to understand or easier to understand. And then, coming up with the price is like, oh, that's difficult.
Yeah.
Continues to
No,
be.
it's definitely like I think it's much more challenging for ceramic artists to price. Not impossible, but definitely more challenging.
We did talk about that last week when we were talking about it, just because it's a totally different type of anything. And I actually make both. I make jewelry and I make ceramics. So it's like being on both sides of the table. You're like, oh, like I can sell a $40 pair of earrings, no problem. But if I sold a $40 cup, people are like, what is this made of gold?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, no, it's not.
Dirt.
Yeah, it
It's
is
made
a
of
hundred.
dirt.
Yeah, it is 100% like perceived value. And this is something whenever I teach pricing, like I talk about perceived value a lot because it's amazing to look at the perception. And then, I think like, right, jewelry, you can charge more because there's just like, oh, it's jewelry. So like it's probably worth something more. And then people are like, but I can get a cup for so much cheaper. And then like I've worked with some textile artists and like my heart goes out to textile artists because that is so it's so painful and people are like, but I can buy a shirt for $1. And it's like, but right, but like a human hand didn't make that shirt, or if they did, they were thoroughly exploited. So yeah, perceived value goes so much into that. And yeah, it's definitely a struggle for sure.
So how do you personally convey that value to your customers? Because I heard you mention in the ship every day, social media posting doesn't necessarily have the same impact as maybe other businesses do, where it's like I post something, I see, sales from it. How are you conveying that value for the people that are buying from you?
Yeah, I think there's a few ways, and this is one of those things that's such a hard question to answer succinctly because there's so many things that go into perceived value. So obviously branding plays a role. Like people will look at your website, they'll look at your branding, they'll look at like even the fonts you're putting on a social media post and make assumptions about whether it's a high end or not a high end brand that have nothing to do with the work itself, right? So that's one
Yes.
piece. And then I think situation is really important. So, one of the things that like I found with my work and where I wanted to price my work is I live in like a teeny tiny town in central Pennsylvania, and it is not a place where people tend to have a lot of disposable income, and it's not a place where people spend a lot on things. Like it's, we have two Walmarts in our county and like almost no indie boutiques, right? So that kind of gives you like an idea of where I sell or where I live, and I don't sell where I live. So like I take my work and luckily I live close to a lot of cities, right? So I go to Philly, I go to Baltimore, like I go to New York. I go to Pittsburgh, like I go to all these places where people are used to spending more money on things. There's a greater appreciation for handmade, there's a greater appreciation for that. And so putting your work in context, and I know so many artists, and I get like, I also get that this is again where jewelry has an advantage because my stuff weighs less and it's easier to ship, and I can fit all of my inventory into like a reasonably small box. And I understand all of these things. So like, I'm not saying that it's easy, but I always tell people are like, I have to start local. I have to start local. And I always tell people if I tried to start local, I wouldn't have a business right now because I would have never gotten it off the ground. I would never have been able to charge what I charge. I would have never found enough customers who appreciate like the weirdness of my jewelry. And I'm not even weird in the art jewelry world, but like for where I live, it's
Hmm.
weird. And so I think just really being mindful of that. And then even just, what stores are you approaching? What shows are you selling at? Like I don't like to be the most expensive person at a show. Sometimes I am. But if I am, it's because I'm going to Philly and I'm doing a pop-up market or something. But you know, putting that context where like if you're doing a show and everybody else is super undercharging on their ceramics, of course they're going to be like, why is this mug $40? So, trying to put yourself in context where everybody else who's selling understands the value of what they're making, and then the people who are shopping understand the value of what they're buying. I
Nice,
know that was a
nice.
long answer.
Yeah,
No, helpful.
yeah, I think it definitely matters where you're selling and knowing that to some people it'd be like, I can't afford that $200 booth fee, but it's like that's where the customers are going to be and where they're going to value what you're bringing,
Right.
versus a
One would
booth
hope.
that might cost $30 or something, and you're like, okay, like I can afford this, it's local to me, but it's tough. It's a tougher experience. I don't know. It's a tried and see trial and error, like figuring out
Yeah,
the show side
absolutely.
of it and then making that contact in person with customers or potential customers. Yeah.
Yeah, there was this one show that I did last year called the Backyard Craft Show. The booth fee was
I
kind of
wonder who
low,
I wonder who hosted that. I don't
and it
know.
was just, I mean, like, I don't know, like people tried to haggle me down. I didn't really sell that much.
I believe it.
I don't know if I'm gonna go again next year. I think that's good advice.
We're postponing it this year, so
Oh no,
no
really?
problem.
Shit.
Yes, yeah. We we have some other things that are becoming priority this year, but
Oh, so no, really? Not doing it at all?
we're not doing it this year. No.
Oh no. Oh, I do.
News.
Anyway, yeah, sorry, I just couldn't resist getting a dig in at Ryan.
I'll take it. I can take it. I can take it.
So, I was reading the chapter where you talked about asking for the sale.
Hmm.
And so what is that? Maybe I'm very literal, and I am very literal, but like, what does that look like for you? And what do you think that might look like for us?
Yeah. So when I talk about asking for the sale, I think the most concrete example that I can give is when people or when like artists are sending an email to their list and they'll be like, here's all these like 27 things that I'm doing, and like, here's a peek into my studio, and here's a thing. And like, all of those things are fine. But like, when I send an email to my list, it's literally, here's a thing, go buy it. It's like, here's a thing, here's like three different links to that thing. And then here's a button that says, like, go shop that thing. And sometimes that thing is a collection, sometimes it's a specific product, sometimes it's my website in general, but I'm always trying to like very directly my send stuff to like where people can buy, right? So when I say ask for the sale, I literally mean like tell people where they can buy stuff, because the other thing that I think a lot of us who are try to sell things for a living forget is on social media too. There's a lot of people on social media that are like, hey, I made this thing. And especially now that we have algorithmic social media where you're seeing stuff from people that you don't necessarily follow, you don't know if the person is just ragging or sharing or actually selling. And so not being afraid to like be like, hey guys, I made a thing and it's available on my website, or it's going to be available on my website in 2 weeks. Make sure you sign up for the mailing list so that you're the first to know when you can have it. It's
Hmm.
literally just constantly reminding people that, yeah, your shit is for sale, because we know it's for sale, but most of the people on the internet don't realize that. And then the other thing that we do is like people will bury their links. So it's like if I go to your website and I have to click like 8 buttons to get to your shop, that's
Yeah.
also not asking for the sale because people are like, oh, I guess it's not for sale. I guess I can't find it. So like, but really it's just reminding people like, I have a thing, here's where you can buy it over and over and over again.
Okay. Good. That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, so, and some of it you mentioned like not asking for it because you're afraid of the rejection of like I asked, and then there's a
Right.
direct thing of how many people bought. And
Right.
it's like I had 3 people buy, and it's like, that's a bummer. Rather than like I showed the thing, I got a lot of interest. People were asking if I could buy it, and I pointed them. So it wasn't so direct of like I posted with the intention of buys. I didn't get as many buys as I wanted or whatever.
Right. Well, and I think that part of the other thing that happens is that we tend to think that like one social media post or one email, like that's going to just solve everything, right? Like if I send one email, then hundreds of people are going to buy and it's going to be like my whole month is made. And that's not how email works. It's not how social media works. Like all of it is the lump sum of your actions. And so you can't like I never look for that direct correlation because that's how you get, like you said, like it's how you get disheartened because you're like, well, I posted about this one time on social media and like nobody bought it. So no one cares. And it's like, that is not how social media works at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, it's interesting because like in 2025, with all the other things that I was doing, like I published a novel.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I know. But so like one of the things I've been doing is hanging out on threads, like with the specific intent of marketing my novel. And it's just me like bebopping around threads all the time, being like, I wrote a novel, here's where you buy it. I wrote a novel, here's where you buy it. I wrote a novel, here's where you buy it. And it's like a really good reminder for like the other parts of my business that like, yeah, you have to just keep showing up, even if it's with the same product over and over and
Right.
over and over again, because people miss stuff all the time or they don't realize it's for sale or they get distracted because that's what the internet does to us. And yeah, it's like that showing up consistently and reminding people. And it's going to seem tedious to you because you're like, I swear I posted this mug 20
Yeah.
times, but you don't know it's the 21st one that might sell it.
Right. And not everybody's seeing it with the algorithms and everything.
Right.
You feel like, but nobody's going to market it besides yourself unless you're paying for ads or something. So, I mean,
Yes.
it is really up to you to, it's tough to keep asking. It feels like, oh, she's asking for something again. She keeps asking for the, but like, yeah. Yeah, it's nice
But
seeing you. I do subscribe to your email list, and it's not like I was just looking up the ring one that you did with
mhm.
the mystery. It's like here's the photo of the rings. Here's a few different photos. Here's how you shop. Here's how much the saving is, or
Yeah.
here's the dates and all that. It's very straightforward. It's not narrating a
Yeah.
bunch of like here's why you should value it, and here's why it's so amazing, and here's how it gets made, and all. It's like here it is. If you want it, here's the link. Go buy it.
Yeah. And because the other thing is like I trust that the people on my list, they've seen me on the internet, they've seen me at shows, like I'm that's not a cold audience anymore, so I can be like, hey, you remember how you said you like my work, now you can go buy my work. And actually it's funny because that email has more pictures than I normally put in any email, but because I'm doing it's like this mystery rings, I sell these stacking rings in all these colors, and right now I'm doing like a mystery ring stack sale, and I was like just trying to communicate the sheer volume of colors because normally I'm like one picture, maybe two, and like hit send. Um, so, but yeah, it's like here's one thing, here's one idea, just go buy the thing.
Nice. And have you had to like iterate on that and figure out what works and just analyze what tactics work, or is it just like you get a gut feeling of, hey, this is what amount of work I feel like putting in for this. I know that I need to make 2 or 3 emails related to this and just kind of keep it low stress.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of iteration and it's a little bit of like kind of constantly evaluating. Like I do a birthday sale almost every year. My birthday is the end of October. It's actually my big sale for the year so that I don't have to do a Black Friday sale because I hate trying to shout over the Black Friday, Cyber Monday noise. So it's like kind of the perfect, like, here's my birthday, here's my big sale. If you want it, get it. And I noticed that this year I had to send way more emails. And like, I think the sale was like 3 days. And I had to send way more emails than I would normally send in the course of that sale to get kind of similar results. It just feels like the space is a little more crowded. But I was kind of like, you know what? If the people on my list, like they want to know about this and I know people are missing things. So like, I'm going to just try being a little more aggressive this year. And see if it gets me the result I want. And like, honestly, when it comes to things like email, the only results I care about are like, are people buying things? I don't look at unsubscribes. I don't look at any of that stuff. Like, I don't look at any metrics that make me feel rejected. Because I feel that sense of rejection really strongly. Like, I totally do feel it too. I just shut out all of those metrics. Like I don't need unsubscribe notifications. Like I turn off all that stuff. I'm like, I'm just going to live over here in my happy oblivion.
Yeah.
And like, you can hate on me over there and I'm just not going to see it. And it's fine. Cause that's how I like protect my peace. Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like if someone were to do a podcast and like talk about your book, you just don't listen to that.
Exactly. Exactly. I'll come on and talk to you later, but like, I don't need to know if you hated it. Because here's the thing. If you hated it, that's fine because you're still talking about it, right? So like it's
any
still,
engagement is good engagement.
Right. Right. So like if you would have hated that's okay with me. Just keep talking about it.
I feel as though we had very good things to say and some criticisms, and that was great. That's what I would want.
Exactly.
I would want no
And
criticisms. Pretend you love me. Please.
Well, I mean,
Please.
and the thing is, like, the thing that I have to remind myself, and I think this is like important for all of us, is like nothing appeals to everyone. There is no such thing as like universal appeal. And so, you know, like when I wrote Try It and See, like I wrote it for my audience. Like I wrote it for the people I was coaching and teaching and the things that I was seeing. You know, I had been running my online mentorship program for about a year at that point. So I really wrote it from the perspective of like what I was seeing over and over again in the forums and the challenges my students are facing. And not everybody faces those challenges. And like, at the end of the day, I can only give my advice, like from my perspective and the perspective of the people that I've coached and worked with. And that's not going to resonate with everyone. And also like, sometimes I get stuff wrong. And I'm sure at this point, like if I went back and reread it, there's things that I would disagree with now because like 2019 Megan wrote that and then 2022 Megan revised it and now we're at 2026 Megan and she's in like a whole different place.
Right.
So like I'm sure there are things that I would disagree with now too.
That leads into a perfect question. If you were to re-release a new edition of the book in 2026, your foreword was in 2022, would there be one or two chapters you would consider adding to it?
Or changing?
Yeah, so I think I definitely think I would change the ship every day chapter, partly because
that was our favorite chapter.
Whoa. Really? So what's interesting about that is like after I wrote that and then after I did the 2022 re-release, I listened to Seth Godin, who was like, that's where the idea of Ship Every Day came from. I listened to Seth Godin on a podcast and I really soured on him because he was just like espousing some real elitist art world bullshit that like, I was like, oh, I am unhappy with you right now. And so it's like hard for me to look at that chapter that like really owes everything to him and be like, but I don't know how I feel about you anymore. So that's that. And then I think also just from like a perspective of, you know, like my perspective on social media has changed. And like, I talk a lot about like email versus social media and things like that in that chapter. So I think there's at least some things I would revise there for sure. I also think I kind of touched on it a little bit in the new forward, but I think like I would maybe dive deeper into sort of like the cult of productivity because I've done a lot of reading and research around that since then. And like, I'd probably include a chapter about rest. I think that's really important. And it's something that I didn't talk about because like, to me, that wasn't what people needed. But now in 2026, I'm like, oh God, we all need to rest. Like we're kind of exhausted. At least that's how I feel. I feel it in my students. And so I think I'd probably add in a chapter about like rest and reflection, it's important to being able to like regroup so that you can try it and see again.
Okay. Because we reading through it, it was very pretty linear generally. It was
Yeah.
kind of like from beginning stages to okay, you're running it, it's on the trains are on the tracks, you're moving. Okay, maybe you need to charge more, maybe you're working yourself too hard or whatnot, feeling burned out. So the rest would be like, would that be at the end or would you put
I
that
think it
like in
would
the
be at
middle
the end.
somewhere?
I
At the end?
don't know. I think maybe at the end as a reminder, but I don't, I don't think that rest should be like the reward for hard work. Like like rest has to happen more. You can't be like, well, I busted my ass for 6 months and now that I'm exhausted, I guess I should rest.
Hmm.
So like that makes me think maybe it needs to come a little bit earlier. Um, but I could also see it just putting it at the end because as a writer trying to revise, sometimes it's just easier to like slip it in at the end.
Right. Do you feel like from listening to the other folks that you teach and mentor and hear from, do they have that sense of like, I'm not doing enough or I need to work harder so that I can make this work? I'm just not trying enough things and I just haven't found the thing yet, so you just need to try harder or like kind of where
Yeah,
does the rest
I
or
do
the
get that. I
overworking?
do get that sometimes. I will say like we have the irony of like my online business community is that I tend to go on a lot of like anti-capitalist rants in there these days. And so I know it's a real interesting paradox there. But so like my students kind of understand like that rest is important. We actually I do a weekly accountability thread in there. And when we started, it used to be just how will I make art and how will I make money? And so, like, every Monday, you jump in and you talk about how you're going to do those things. And then at some point, we added another category called how I'll fill the well. So, like, that could be movement, it could be rest, it could be, take like mental health, it could be whatever those socialization, right? It could be any of those things. And so, for a fairly long time now, my group, I think I've kind of preached this. Like, I don't really believe in balance, but I believe in like ebbs and flows and everything. And so I think that most of my students are good about knowing, like, hey, I only have so much capacity. I only have so much that I can do each day. And like, I'm going to do my best. But I do see it in general, especially when people are struggling to grow the business, are struggling to make the kind of money. It's like, well, if I just do this one more thing, if I just do this one more thing, like I'll get there. I'll get there. So yeah, I do think it's a thing that happens, especially because it's so easy to lose like hours of your life to social media and be like, well, I was on social media, I was working, I swear. And you're like, where the hell did my morning go? Like,
Right.
so
And as the business owner, there's always more to be done. So,
there's always more, right? Like
Yeah.
nothing ever ends. Yeah.
right.
Yeah, we don't get to clock out.
No.
No,
But
not
we
at
should.
all.
I clock out.
Well, you have a regular job.
Even if I don't, I still do.
You are a weekend lover.
I do.
Well,
You know what? Listen, if there's anything that Heidi Fehrenbacher has taught me, it is to take breaks.
no, I'm not gonna take total credit for that, but that's something that Heidi and I've talked a lot about. Yeah, but I'm with you, Becca. I also love my weekends. So that is one of my rules in Artists and Profit Makers is I don't respond to the forums on the weekends because I'm like, I am modeling this behavior, guys. Like I clock out at like 5 o'clock. That doesn't mean I don't sometimes do things for like here we are recording podcast right at like 6:47. But like I clock out of like the forums at the end of the day. I don't go in the forums on the weekends. Like I actually do set those boundaries because I think they're important. They're important. They're important for me. And I think they're important to model as business owners. One of the things that people say to me, and like this is part of the origin story of Try It and See is they'd be like, oh, you get so much done. Like you must never sleep. And I'm like, dude, I'm in bed by like 9 o'clock every night. Like I sleep so much, guys, because I wouldn't function if I didn't. And so like I think also just as someone who does get a lot of stuff done, correcting those myths and being like, no, guys, like I go to bed at 9 o'clock. If I don't have a show, I take the weekend off. If I do have a show, I generally take like the day after the show off. Sometimes if I'm feeling really burnt out, I'll take the day before a show off. I'll be like, I'm going to do nothing until 2 o'clock and then I'm going to load my car. Cause like, who wants to go to a show and be like exhausted and then have to
Yeah.
be on talking to people for 2 or 3 days? So
Right.
I'm very good about taking time off.
See,
Nice.
that's the day I usually open the kiln.
Mm.
Open the kiln, load the vehicle up, drive to the show, set up.
Right.
Okay, we get some rest
Yeah.
for the night.
And I got to
Yeah.
take pictures and
Yeah.
input them into the inventory system, and that means doing how capacities and yeah.
Maybe a social media
Oh, for
post.
sure. Because other and printing stickers and putting them on everything. Oh my God. It's a
All the
lot.
things.
I
Yeah.
schedule it so that I have a day to take off in case I need it, but something will go wrong with the kiln or something will go wrong, you know. Always. There's always
Yeah,
something.
tough, tight scheduling.
Yeah.
One of my students, now she is not a ceramic artist, but she lives on an island and in Canada. And so she has to take a ferry to pretty much any show she goes to. And so she literally schedules the ferry for like a day earlier than she needs it. So that then like she has to take a day off in wherever she's doing the show. And I'm like, that's
Mm,
actually
That's
kind of brilliant.
genius.
Hmm.
Wait, did you
yeah.
say she does do ceramics or doesn't?
She does not. No,
Oh,
she's
okay.
also a jeweler, but she actually she works with PMC with precious metal clay. So she does also have to fire things before she can sell them. I think the firing
Oh,
process is shorter, but still there is like that kiln balance
You
thing
got to
happening
plan
a little bit.
ahead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You gotta
exactly.
plan for contingencies, yeah. I know somebody who also lives in that situation. I thought it would have been really weird if we knew the same person, but she's a ceramicist, so.
Okay.
Pod swap buddy, actually, from a couple years back.
oh, nice,
Yeah.
nice.
Becca, do you want to ask your revenue income questions?
Oh shit.
Oh, she doesn't
Um,
have the note pulled up. Oh no. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put
I
you on
have
the
a quick
spot.
filler that you could probably answer. How many pieces of jewelry do you make per year?
Oh, you know what's funny is I don't know that I can answer that because I make a shit ton. So,
Because
That's
I
an
was guessing, I
acceptable
was like,
answer.
I don't know that she makes like a few thousand pieces a year. I'm like, maybe, I don't know.
I mean, I just did, let's see, like in that ring sale that I'm doing, what did I inventory? I think I had like 350, 400 stacking rings. So like
Oh,
just stacking ring, and that was just the
Whoa.
colorful ones. And then I have like silver and bronze. So like we're talking
wow.
about, I probably make like 500 rings a year. And
Oh
then
shit.
like, yeah.
Because the
And then
rings are
like
sold in sets of three for 30
not,
bucks. Like,
well, yeah. So here's the thing. That's my deal price. At a
right, right.
show, they're sets of three for $50.
Yeah. It says
Right.
And
56 list price, $30 on
56 list
sale
price
right
if you buy them
now.
on my website. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. So like now those are one of those things where like the more you have, it's better. So like I'm always trying to carry inventory on those because you're talking about sizes and like
Yeah.
it's a lot of that's a lot of inventory in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I would say, I mean, it's got to be thousands of pieces a year, because jewelry.
And does that number not matter as much to track because it's just like when you get to those levels, you know if you're set or you're not set or you're like comfortable with how much you're making, or is it
Yeah,
just a feel?
I have never been a like count my inventory kind of person. I am very much like a visual inventory person. So like things are sorted. I used to have like boxes in my studio, like little bins, because I'm doing a lot of retail shows right now. I have like a little rolly, it's actually a makeup cart with like little drawers in it. And so like it's very much like, this drawer's looking a little empty. I guess we'll make some stuff in there. Like, oh, this bag is a little empty. Like, oh, look, size 6 rings are a little low. Maybe we should make some
Right.
of those. Like, I am very much like a visualizer when it
Mm,
comes to inventory, not a counter.
right.
So yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
okay, I found them.
Oh, yay.
But then I got distracted because I wanted to find the email about the stacking rings because I really like those.
Oh, I'll send you the link. I'm looking at them right now.
Okay, thanks.
I love it.
I was like, as soon as she started talking about it, I was like, oh, I want
Yeah,
those.
they look
Well,
great.
I saw them earlier and I was like, God, those are so
They
fucking
look like something Becca would wear,
They really
seriously.
do.
they do, and they are. I
There
just
you go.
There you go.
yeah.
Sold some more rings for you, Megan.
I
No,
love
you
it.
didn't.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
What
Like
You
on
know
this is
earth
what's
is
one
my ring size? Sorry, go ahead.
this is one of those things that I would just look at and be like, oh man, but I have no money.
I'm gonna buy some
um
now, so
well, and I think so, you know what's really funny about those too is so those are powder coated steel, and people will come up to my booth all the time and be like, "Are these ceramic?" And I'm like, "Nothing
Dude,
else in my booth is ceramic." But and also no, they're not.
I would
But
never
people all the
put
time.
ceramic rings on. That seems dangerous as fuck.
okay.
Right. Well, yeah, people think they're like breakable. I'm like, they're not breakable.
I'm always hitting my hands on shit because I have a really bad proprioception. Like I just don't know where my body is ever, and so I would just break things immediately.
I've made ceramic rings, but also flip side of that, people have come into my booth and asked me if my ceramic cups were tin cans.
Wow. Did you mean them
Oh,
to look like tin cans?
No.
Not like
Oh.
Mitchell Spain tin cans.
Yeah,
They're
I
just
was
like,
thinking
are
of like
these what?
Tim.
Maybe that's a comment on how light they are.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Or one of my favorites. Oh, so you just took a wine glass and painted this, right?
No. Actually, she's a throwing fucking wizard.
Yeah,
I
that's
just
throwing skills.
Yeah. It's like, no,
I
I'm
just
just
say
really good
that
at this.
I hold my tongue well.
You do?
There, at shows, not now.
Oh.
I know
Um,
that's why we need like we all need spaces like this so that we can complain about the dumb shit that customers say because some people.
They say the weird. Oh my God. I was at the farmer's market the other day, and this woman poked a piece of banana bread at the bread booth, screamed, and said, "Oh my God, that's bread. I thought it was a rock. I'm so sorry I touched it." I was like, what the fuck just happened?
that's
Wow.
amazing.
Because, yeah, that's what you'd have a rock on display there with all the other breads.
Right.
Oh my God. Yeah, people say the weirdest shit at shows.
Truly. Okay, my question is, well, you can decide. Okay, in your book, this was like a billion years ago that you wrote this book, but um in that book you had mentioned that you made over six figures, which you definitely don't have to say how much that actually is, but if you could tell me if it starts with a one, a two, or a three, that would be great. And and also, or I mean, if it starts with a nine, we're just like super happy for you. Um,
And we hate you.
also at the same time. Um,
There's no need for hate. I promise you it does not start with a nine.
Okay. Good, good, good.
um,
Um,
oh, but
yeah, I think oh go ahead.
oh, I'll just say this and then you can just go. But I was wondering if you had kind of like a ratio of what your like profit to your income is, because I know jewelry is like it's got a fairly like high overhead, and like and kind of like how you approach that uh with well, I what was I gonna say? Because like in the book you had mentioned that you made like, a good amount of money, which props to you. Also amazing. But is that like when you were saying that in the book, is that like your profit that you're making money, or is that like your gross, or what would you say like as a jeweler you could expect for your profit to like net ratio?
Yeah, so to answer the first part of the question, so my highest ever year of revenue was about 180K. So
Okay.
I've yet to crack that 200K mark.
Mm.
Um, I wanted it so bad. I want it less. Listen, I want it all the time, but like I haven't gotten there. I will say that that number was a few years ago. The last couple of years have not been as good in my business. I will be honest with that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of factors with that. I think we could talk about a lot of them. One of them that I kind of had to come to terms with accept is like the changing jewelry market. So like for a lot of years,
Mm,
my big sellers were like statement necklaces. Those are just not fucking in right now. And so
yeah.
like I've been making a lot of changes in that regard, kind of having to like push myself. I used to have years where like the bulk of what I sold were necklaces. I noticed like I did a holiday show in Pittsburgh. I think I sold two necklaces all show, whereas like in the past, that would have been like 50% of my sales probably. Now it's like little earrings and stacking rings.
Mhm.
So there's some shifts that have happened. But yeah, so my highest year was 180. Um, the the profit question is a little bit harder to answer. As a jeweler, my expenses are relatively low because I work in steel and then use like silver and bronze and gold filled as more of like my accent metals. So as a jeweler, my material costs are low. Everybody's material costs are painful right now because silver and gold are like through the fucking roof. Like
Mm,
a year ago, silver was like 25 an ounce, and now it's like pushing 80 an ounce. It's
Woo.
like, it's brutal up in here, guys. Like, say a little prayer for your jewelry friends because we're hurting. Every time I got to go buy metal, I'm like, oh, I'm like, okay, just go back to making steel stacking rings right now. That's at least cheap. Um, so yeah, so that, but then like my business situation in terms of profit is like a little bit complicated um, by the fact that um, my studio is in this old farmhouse that I grew up in, and like it is unnecessarily large for what I do, and thus way more expensive than I should be spending on studio space. But it is like the house I grew up in, and I had like very specific attachment to it. And so, like in the year I made 180, I probably had about 60K in profit that year.
mm. Okay.
Um, but that I think was also the year that I had to put was that the year I did the air conditioning or the furnace? There were like 2 years in a row where I had to do like the furnace or the air conditioning and then the furnace in what is a 5,000 square foot property.
Oh
Jeez.
So
no.
Oof.
yeah. So like my numbers are a little bit skewed by those expenses.
Makes
Um
sense.
so I would say I would be a little bit higher. So as a jeweler, like I have jeweler friends that are working fine, and so they're spending a lot more money on materials than I am. But for a jeweler, my material costs are fairly low and my labor time is fairly low. And all of those things have been like very strategic in the way that I have designed my production pieces because sorry, I'm like getting over a cold. Um, I'm a little bit lazy. And so, this is like the secret. I'm a little bit lazy. And so like I want the things that I can make fast, make inexpensively, but still have like a good perceived value. And I understand that that is way easier to do in jewelry, but it's also not totally easy to do because if it was easy to do, like everybody would do it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're still relying on a lot of volume to get to those sales numbers for the year. It's not because I was under the impression from the price per hour and stuff that you were getting a lot of higher average price per sale as jewelry, but is
So
that
I was at the time that I wrote the book. So this goes back to that shift
Ah.
in jewelry trends.
Ah.
So like so here's the thing. COVID really hurt like statement jewelry. Like let's be real. Like that was a tricky it's been tricky because like people aren't going out as much, they aren't dressing up as much. Like we've just gotten way more casual in the last
mm,
5.5 years. Um and trends have changed. And so like at the time that I wrote that, a lot of what I was selling was like necklaces in the, I had things that were like 80, 90 retail, but I also sold a lot of necklaces that were like 250, 300, 400 retail. So even at wholesale, we're talking about things that are like $200 wholesale. I was selling a shit ton of that stuff. I'm still selling some of that stuff, but I am selling far more like 20, 30, 40, 50, $60 price point right now. In terms of like stacking rings, in terms of like these little layerable earrings. Um, and I had to do that to adapt to the market, but like I'm definitely running more of a volume business right now
Mm.
because I adapted to the trends that I'm seeing.
You're
Right.
running a production potter business.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really am.
R.I.P. to
It's
your
very different.
body.
Mm. I know this week I've been like, okay, I gotta do yoga. Like I gotta do
Yeah.
though, like the on the flip side, because I'm working with like a lot thinner gauge wire than I used to work with in the past, it's actually like easier on my hands. So that's a real nice little change there.
Oh,
Okay.
good.
I'm happy for you.
Becca's over there in painful
She
hand
she's
land.
about she's about to get a hand surgery for carpal tunnel. So,
Oh,
or
that's so rough.
It's
Yeah.
okay. We're making stickers that say, I paid for Becca's hand job.
Nice. That is amazing.
I'm so excited
Also,
about
I
that.
just did one today where I traced my hand and then drew on some of my tattoos, and it said, I paid for this hand.
I love that.
Nice.
Like, you know how we used to trace our hands when we were kids?
Hmm.
yeah, like the
Like that.
turkey, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love
Anyway,
that.
don't get carpal tunnel. It's not fun.
That's why, yeah.
So in the book, you mentioned three revenue streams. Do you still have the wholesale, online, directly to customers, teaching as those three still?
Yeah.
And then how would you say the income is split between them and whether that's like
So yeah,
revenue
so
or
actually I have more revenue streams than than that right now. Um, because I went back to retail shows like 2 years ago. So
oh,
Oh, fun.
yeah, I got fun is an operative word. I got
Yeah.
as many of us did. I got really burned out on the internet post COVID. I got the so like if it doesn't come through in the book, like I was such like a Pinterest stan and like an Instagram, like I was like so
Mhm.
all in on those platforms, and then I feel like I felt like this sense of like loss or betrayal or like just with how gone to shit everything is now. And
We're
I
all
was
right
really
there with you.
yeah, and
Yep.
I was really struggling with like how I wanted to market my business and bring in new customers. And I had also introduced like the worst time to design a new line was like 2 weeks before COVID went down. I was like, I'm going to start powder coating everything. And then it was like, oh, COVID. Um, but so, I had like lines that I didn't think people were seeing enough. And so I was like, you know what? Retail shows have never really been my jam, but I think it's time to go back. So I did put some parameters on there. I won't do a multi-day outdoor show. That is where I draw the line. I will do a one-day outdoor show. I will do a multi-day indoor show. I will not set up my tent for multiple days in the rain. But yeah,
those are
so
your
I have
non-negotiables.
those are my non-negotiables, right? Like
Non-negotiables. Yeah.
those are
Right,
my
right.
things. So yeah, so I would say like 2025 um like of the jewelry business, I would say like 60% of sales came from retail shows in
Damn.
2025. Yeah, so that was really again, but again, like a lot of volume, like a
And
lot
how
of
many shows is that?
what did I do 2025? I did two, I think I probably did 10 to 12. Some of these are like one day markets, and then some
Hmm.
of them are like longer
Wait, wait,
shows.
wait. Will you tell us your most you've ever made? Please beat Ryan.
Oh, so here's what I will say. I have never had a retail show hit 10 grand.
I haven't
Okay.
either.
Okay. So I think my highest show is like 7 grand,
Oh,
Okay.
6, 7, somewhere in there. I know I just said 6, 7. Sorry, guys. For those of you who hang out with
Six,
small children.
seven.
Yep. Thank you, Taylor.
You're welcome.
Um, appreciate that. So I will say that my best ever wholesale show, God, I miss these days. At New York Now, I had a show where I wrote 25K in orders.
That beats Ryan.
Wow.
We'll take
yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. You earned
Oh,
it.
What?
$25,000. That's a lot. I
Yeah.
mean,
But
and plus that's months of work, I'm sure, after
Hmm.
you sign the thing and
Yeah.
you're like, okay, back to the
Yeah.
studio. Let's get to work.
Yeah, I did have a production assistant at the time too, so that was me hustling to pay her salary as
Yeah.
well as my own. But yeah, I do miss those show days.
Yeah.
I
I
did
think my
want to
best
ask
retail
you
show was
that.
like 78.50 or something like that. So
Okay.
that's what Becca was listening for.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
Something like that.
he does like 3 day outdoor shows.
Yeah, I
He's
don't
I
do
a
do.
that shit.
Yeah,
he
like
doesn't
2 day,
have the
3 day.
standards you have for shows,
Yeah.
if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I
Well,
rely on the multi-day shows. Those are the most beneficial
yeah.
for me.
Well, and I think too, like so, like whatever shows that I was kind of in that like 6, 7 grand range, like
Six,
those were.
seven. Sorry.
Thank you, Taylor. Those were like were like indoor shows, so we're talking about a booth fee that's like probably pushing 2 grand till it's all said and done, right?
Yeah, that's
So
a lot.
there's also that, there's that. And then I do like 1 day pop-up markets where it, costs me $200 and I make a grand, 1,500, 1,800, something like that. And I'm like, that, it all
Yeah.
feeds in there.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then I have jeweler friends who do shows and like somehow make like 20 grand at retail shows. And I'm like, teach me your ways, please. I've
It's
never cracked that.
a lot of trial and error and finding those
Hmm.
customers, and most of my shows are
Yeah.
going back to the same shows year after year, and it's just like working in the margins. Okay, let's
Yep.
get, sell a little bit better. I usually sell about 10% more each year generally if I'm looking at the data
Yeah.
right and all that, and the prices increase. So,
Yeah. Did you
Taylor,
see
you
that
were gonna
happen this year where you went
this
up?
year
I'm gonna turn the tables and
this
ask you a question.
this year in
Huh?
Bloomington, Indiana, the 4th Street Art Fair. So that was a 2 day show
Okay.
over Labor Day weekend.
Nice.
And 78.51 for a 2 day. Yeah, that was my best show I've ever
Nice.
done.
Nice.
That's awesome.
No, we love that he does great shows, but we also call him a unicorn because nobody listening to this podcast has ever made as much money as he has on a show. I swear. I
I think
I'm
they have, but I don't know the full scope of our listeners, but there's some folks that do the circuit that I'm sure make more than that on a regular
whatever.
basis. But
Becca doesn't believe it.
I don't.
Oh, I was gonna ask, Megan. So I remember in the book you were talking about that you had someone you like contracted some work out to. Do you do that
Yeah.
anymore?
I do not do that anymore.
Just you.
So just me. So I had so she was actually when I was teaching, she was one of my grad students. And I walked into her studio the one day. So like all of my jewelry is welded, which is like most jewelry is soldered, but I weld and I weld predominantly steel. And so not everyone has that skill set. And so I walked into her studio one day and I was like, Amy, you can weld. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, you want to do some welding for me? And
Nice.
so we started out like she did piecework for me. Like I would just be like, here's a big bag of chain link. Cause like a lot of my stuff, again, not this year, but like in the past, a lot of my bread and butter line was chain, like handmade chain. So I'd be like, here's a bag of links. Will you weld all of these links? Great. And then I'd be like, okay, now you can turn those into chain. Like I kind of built her up. And so she was, at the time I wrote the book or shortly before, I can't remember what year, she stopped working for me, or I should say I let her go. I'll tell the full story. She
Ooh,
worked 30 hours a
flirty.
week. She worked 30 hours a week for me. She was amazing. She was incredible. But two things were happening. One, it did kind of feel like I was like busting my ass just to pay somebody else's salary.
Mhm.
And I was happy to do that. But at the same time, I couldn't afford to get her up to 40 hours a week, get her health care. Like I couldn't be the kind of employer that I was like, she needs something that just felt a little more stable than like
Mhm.
being my 30-hour a week employee. And she was
Mhm.
teaching adjunct too, but like again, that's not
Yeah.
that's not stable either. But then the other thing that I had noticed is that when I stopped doing the production of my jewelry, I stopped designing new jewelry. And so um yeah, so like my process is like very much like I am inspired by like being in the studio and having my hands on the material. And so like there was a few years where like I'd go to trade shows and my stores were like, what's new? And I was like, well, I've been painting. And then I turn those paintings into textiles. And they're like, no, what's new in the jewelry? And I was like, nothing. And so I was like, oh, I think I have to take this process back. And so I ended up letting her go, which was perfect because then she got a full-time job, like monitoring a sculpture studio at a university, and she loved it. And I got to give her like a glowing recommendation.
Mm,
So like it all worked out perfectly happy. But yeah, so that's why I did have one and then I didn't have one.
okay.
Got it.
So
Okay.
you had to almost be in the process because you get tired of making the same thing so that you were inspired to make something
Yeah.
else. Is that kind of what you
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, basically. So
So
like
relatable.
when I'm making and like doing production, then I'll be like, oh, well, what if I like do this thing over here? And like, what if I do this thing over here? And my work is really based on like everything is based on like specific lengths of wire and like but then it's like, oh, if I take this wire and now I bend it this way, what happens? And now I bend it that way, what happens? And so like everything is based on these kind of units because I don't want to have to measure shit with a tape measure all day. So it's
Hmm.
like, let me just cut this length or cut this length. But like I'm not a person who sits down really and like sketches my
Hmm.
jewelry. Like if I do occasionally when I'm at a show and I have an idea, but like really the sketching is like I'm playing with wire, I'm making a thing. Let me just like do this little side sketch with some wire and then come back to like the production thing.
Hi, I'm Taylor from Backyard Kiln. You may know me as the golden voice of several of the ads you hear on this podcast, or from the Wheel Talk Book Club episodes, which are so chaotic and fun. But today I'd love to talk to you about my absolutely true experience with L&L kilns. I bought my first kiln Charlotte secondhand from someone online. She's an old, reliable L&L Easy Fire. I'm a DIY kind of person, and I love to be able to take my kiln apart and fix it myself, and I do. Every time it throws an error, I can either find out how to fix it on their YouTube channel, or if I'm stumped, I just call up L&L customer support, and they're always able to get Charlotte back up and running. They send parts right out to me over the phone. It's super easy. I've always been impressed with L&L's customer service and expertise and the ease with which I can maintain my own kiln. You don't even need special tools to change your elements or thermocouples. I just keep a couple normal household tools down in the studio, and I am good to go. L&L, the easiest kilns to install, use, and maintain.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, so it sounds like you want to be still that practitioner and like
Yeah.
does that give you a sense of more credibility to the people you're teaching as well that like I'm still actively doing this thing and it my lessons and what I'm talking about holds more weight because I'm living it as well or I have lived it versus like
Yeah.
oh you're making the business of teaching and that's like that's your bread and butter versus the doing.
Yeah, I definitely think it gives me credibility and I would say more so on like the business stuff, like no one ever faulted me when I had an employee doing production, but like the fact that like I've done like over 25 wholesale shows, the fact that I'm like do retail shows, that I'm emailing my list, that I'm selling online, like those things give me credibility, I think, in a way that like just teaching doesn't. Now, I have some other friends that are like literally just run businesses like coaches and consultants, and they are wonderful people and they do like amazing things for their clients. But I do think part of why people come to me is because they're like, well, what are you doing right now? Like, how are your artful home sales? Like, how was this show for you? So I do think that helps. I also like to say that like I don't think people give me as much credit for this, but in my mind, like I like to say that also one of my superpowers is that like I am a passionate like art lover and art buyer. And so like when people are like, oh, no one's gonna spend like $60 on a mug, and I'm like, I just spent $80 on a mug the other day, guys. Like, and so like
Yeah.
because I like it's not like I like have tons of extra money. It's just like those are the things I prioritize. I'm like, here's my whole collection of mugs. Like,
Right.
um, and so I think like because I also do those things, I can put myself in the mind of the artist and the maker and I understand those struggles, but I also can put myself in the mind of the customer and go like, this is what, they're thinking about when they make these purchases. This is what appeals to them. I'm like, I don't need to know how your pottery was made, but like you show me a really juicy picture of somebody like holding a mug in their hand and I'm like, yeah, give me,
Ooh.
right? So
Yeah.
like I know what my triggers are as a buyer, and I think that helps me too to be like, like this picture, it's not selling it. Like it's not giving me the vibes
Hmm.
where I want to go out and like buy the thing, right?
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, there's so many things that go into why people purchase.
Yeah.
And there's sometimes I'll get questions at shows. They'll be like, "Wait, I think I might follow you." So like they've seen the work or they've seen me maybe, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know you were going to be here." So it's, some of those connections are nice. And I think it kind of you've already given them a sense of value from the information you shared on social media or elsewhere,
Yeah,
email list, and then they feel like they already have that connection. So, you don't have to work as hard for the sale because they already know something about you and your work.
right. Well, and I do think too, there's like, it's funny because like it can swing the other way too. So like one of my girlfriends came with me to do a show in Nashville because it was not a good show, but I did it because my cousin lives there and I go to visit her all the time. And I was like, yeah, I'll go do a show. Like we'll write this one off. And so my friend was like, I've never been to Nashville. Can I come with you? And like we can do Nashville. And I was like, yeah, great. So she comes with me and we're like at the show and she's like looking at all my stuff. And I have this like new line of earrings that's just like no welding. It's just me like bending wire in like really complicated forms. And she's like, in there, she goes, do you bend that all by hand? And I was like, I mean, I have some pliers, but basically, yeah, like I bend it by hand, and half the time I don't even use my pliers. She's like, you need to tell people that. And I was like,
Hmm.
oh yeah, right. People just like don't know how shit is made. So like there's that balance of like
Right.
you don't want to be like, well, let me tell you, it took me like 20 minutes to do this or whatever, but also be like, yeah, like I take just spools of wire and then I bend shit until it looks cool. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Ryan's the best at that.
I definitely have to talk to customers. I mean, a lot of it is like pottery's tactile. You got to get them to pick it up. You've got to get
oh
them to
yeah.
ask questions. Some of it's like you put a sign on the table that says garlic grater. You see the head tilt a little bit like a dog that's like, worried or whatever. And like, they
So
like,
true.
how is that a garlic grater? And then the conversation starts. And then that's where you kind of, it's not like, I mean, I do kind of follow a script, but I generally know what's worked and how much information I need to tell them or not tell them, let them
Yeah.
ask for it. Like some of that, I don't know if it's just intuitive or it's just I kind of run
I
on
always,
data and figure out what
yeah.
worked and do that and repeat.
I
But
always tell people that like selling, in-person selling is like stand up. Like you say the things and
I
you
fucking
see
love
what,
stand up. That makes
right.
Yeah.
sense.
Right. Like you like tell the joke or you tell the story and you see how it lands. And like if it doesn't land, you might try it once or twice more. And then you're like, okay, this one doesn't go. But if it lands, then you're like, great, I'm gonna tell it again.
Mhm.
And then you like you learn your bits, right? Like these are my things that I know are gonna resonate with people.
Yeah,
It's totally like learning stand up.
there we go. I've got bits.
Yeah,
I've got
same.
art
Yeah.
Yeah,
show
you
selling
do.
bits. I do. I do.
One of my
Yeah,
other favorite things to do when I'm at a show is like if I'm not actively selling, I'm always eavesdropping on my neighbors because I want to know what their bits are too. I'm like, "Ooh, what are they saying? Like
Oh
what are
yeah.
Mm.
you?" Though I will say I was at a show and like my neighbor before the show started, like my neighbor complimented my dress and like my necklace and she's like, "Oh, those are great." And I was like, "Oh, thanks." And then like every single person that walked into her
Do
booth,
the
she
same
like
thing.
complimented their outfit and I was like, "Oh
Like
no."
that's her bit.
Like,
That's
no, do I
it. She didn't
is
really
my
She's
like
dress
it.
working
actually
you.
I know I was like, is my dress actually even cute? Like,
You can't just be the thing is sometimes you throw it out to somebody that's right there and they hear you say the same thing over. Or
right.
sometimes you forget that you've already said the thing to them. Hey, how's your day going? And you say it to
Yep.
the same person as they turn around and you're like, shit, I already said that, didn't I?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, wait, did I already tell you that? Like starts to blur together at the end. And then you just
It
make that the
does.
bit too. You're like, I'm sorry. You're like, I've talked to so many people today. Like, I don't remember what I've said anymore. And they're like,
Nice.
oh yeah, of course. Like it all just
Yeah.
becomes bits.
Yes.
Exactly. Exactly.
I had some plates that I made that I rolled a ear of corn over and they made this really cool pattern. And so all day, the day I was doing the show where I had those, I was like, people would look at them and I'd be like, guess what that is? And sometimes they'd be like, oh my God, is it corn? And like it made people buy it. They were like, I'm gonna get one of those corn plates.
Were
Amazing.
they actual corn holders for like putting an ear of corn on?
No, no, they're like little ring dishes, but they've got the imprint of the corn on the.
Oh,
They're
okay.
really cool. Yeah.
That is a cool texture. I've seen that where they like you like lather up the corn with like cornstarch and you're like rolling it to
Yeah, you just use
impress
it
it
as
in
a
there.
texture roller.
I want to
Nice.
like this. That sounds amazing. I just want to touch it now.
Yeah,
Ooh,
exactly. And
yeah.
it's yeah, it's got a great texture and the glaze breaks over it really well and yeah, I love them.
I have a question that was not touched on in the book, and it might have been based on the timing of when the book was written. But nowadays, tools like ChatGPT are very prevalent. How do you see small business owners embracing or maybe distancing themselves from how much they use tools like that in their businesses?
So I am staunchly anti Gen AI. Um,
Yay!
I yeah, I have never even used Chat GPT. I don't even know where to get Chat GPT. I mean, I'm sure I could Google it, but like I don't. Um, so I for me, it's like very much a solidarity thing. Like I understand. So the people who created all of these things before they started like actively shoving them down our throats, because that's the stage we're in now, where it's like you can't, like, literally I had to go into the forum software that I use for my community. I was in there today and I was like, why is it asking me to summarize this with AI? So then I had to go like digging into the forum so I could turn it off, because
Hmm.
I was like, no, I didn't approve this, right? So like
Hmm.
before the stage where they were shoving it down our throats, I think companies did a really good job of being like, look how much time this could save you. Look how easy this is to like generate content. And like, we know you're overwhelmed in your business. And like, I get all of those things. But like, at the end of the day, AI is theft as far as I'm concerned. Like,
Yep.
it just is theft of, especially, we talk about like, I've been doing this for 20 years. I started my first blog in 2006. I have been putting images and art and writing on the internet for 20 years, and then a bunch of assholes fucking stole that and like used it to make themselves rich so that other people can be lazy. Like I said, and I know I said earlier I was lazy. There's like good lazy and bad lazy as
Right.
far as I'm concerned. And so like, to me, I understand that there are times where like using it could be easy and an advantage, but for me, that's like crossing a picket line. It's a line I won't cross.
Hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
same.
Have you had questions about that from artists that you've worked with or asked or that use it and like are trying to figure out, are there ways that I can maybe do something that fits a skill set that I don't necessarily am strong in? Like maybe they're not a writer or maybe they don't write emails or they might not be looking for like images, but they're like, because I use it a lot for like business coaching kind of things to help me understand or come up with analytical understanding of the data of my business or something like that, where I'm trying to like take something that might take me hours to figure out, and I'm not a statistician, and like trying to understand and parse through data to understand what I'm looking at and come away with something meaningful. Do you get kind of do you get conversations with artists or businesses about that kind of stuff?
So I don't have a lot of conversations with my coaching clients and my students about that, because they know my stance on it. So like, if they want someone to show them how to use AI, like, I'm not your
Hmm.
girl. And I think part of that is because I personally, like, I understand that like we all have skill sets that we don't have, but as a person who wears a lot of hats, like, I see the offenses everywhere, right? Like, I have 20 years worth of writing on the internet. So like, for me, I'm like, well, if you're using ChatGPT to write shit for you because you couldn't become a better writer, or you don't want to hire a copywriter, or you don't want to hire an editor, or like things like that, like, that's theft of writing, right? But then I'm also an artist, right? And I'm a photographer and I have all this visual content that I've put on the web. So like, now ChatGPT is and Gen AI is stealing that, right? And so like, I see, like, to me, I see that like, no matter where it's being used, it's stolen someone's labor. And so like, to me, that's not like, not having a skill is not an excuse. You either like learn the skill, or you hire the skill, or you figure it out. um because at the end of the day, I'm
So it's
I
just a
have a
limitation for you. You're
it's
just
just,
like,
yeah,
I'm not going to
it's a
use
line
it.
it's a line I don't cross. And then, like, we can talk about all the environmental impacts of it as well.
Yes.
Like, I have a and like, I understand, like, I have friends who use it. Like, I have a friend who uses it for her job all the time, and she's also
Hmm.
like, because like part of her job is to analyze like big sets of, she works for a curriculum and like an arts education curriculum company, and part of her job is to analyze like big sets of data. And so she's like, look, there's just shit that like, this is hours of my day. She's like, but any day that I use AI, she turns the lights off in her house and she makes herself work without like, she makes herself work without the lights on all day,
Without the
because
lights
she's
on,
trying
yeah.
to balance out like her usage of energy.
It's
um
adorable.
yeah, I know. I'm like, okay, like, I get it. So yeah, that's like her, so I think like, at the end of the day, everybody has to come to their own conclusion about what they are or aren't comfortable with.
Hmm.
But it's like a real hard line in this. It's not even a line in the sand. It's like a line in the concrete for me.
Okay.
Yeah, same.
Because in my day job, I do tech work, so I'm encouraged. Like our company
Yeah.
encourage, like they ask, like before they give additional headcount, if somebody leaves, they're not going to give you additional headcount if they're not understanding if you're using AI to help be more efficient and more productive. So like we're expected to use it.
Well,
And
so
I do a lot of tech, I do a lot of web development and stuff like that. So like coding, it's cutting down. Like it would take me a
right.
day or 2 days to do something, and it can help me troubleshoot and get it figured out within like an hour. So it's like, yeah, I don't want to
Well,
spend my time just hitting my head against this wall for this thing. So like for me, I see benefit in those aspects for sure, and then the business
I
side
had to I
doesn't
had
come
to
into
laugh
play.
because my husband came home the other day and he goes, he's like, so I used Copilot today, which is like his whole company is like they use the Microsoft, all the Microsoft
Microsoft
stuff. So
Copilot,
like
yeah.
right, so Copilot is Microsoft's AI. He's like don't hate me, I used Copilot today, but he was like doing his employee reviews and he's like literally there's like three different boxes that like all ask for the same information and he's like and I just couldn't do it. And I was like, I'm not like I don't judge any well, okay, I judge some people. But like let's be real. But like but I just know like where my personal line is. And then also
Hmm.
if like someone asks me, I'm gonna just be like, AI is theft. And then if they're like, what? I'll be like, would you like me to elaborate? Like I literally had a conversation about that. That was like our Thanksgiving table. Is like my sister-in-law was like, so like, do you use this stuff? And I was like, AI is theft.
Yes. As a
So
voice actor, it's a big deal for me. It's a huge
right.
deal. A huge,
Yeah,
huge
no,
deal.
I that's like it's yeah.
Like it's taken so many jobs from so many people, and I used to mentor people into the business, and now I'm like, don't don't start doing voiceover because you can't. Like the people like who would have hired you for like pennies to do this job are just using AI now. They don't want you anymore, and you're just gonna have to compete with people who've been in the business for 10 or 20 or 30 years, and
Hmm.
you're not gonna do it. Impossible
Yeah.
now to
And
start.
that's like so I've seen a lot of that because I hang out a lot of like writer spaces on threads.
Yes.
And so like there's a lot like but of course because every algorithm just shows you the things you want to see like all the people in
Hmm.
my threads are like fuck AI
Yes.
including the people who are like don't use AI generated voice for your novel like don't do it,
Oh
don't
yeah.
listen to AI generated, right, which like I'm like yes solidarity. But that's a thing that like they're starting to say is like AI is taking away those entry level jobs. And so people aren't getting experience in any field because like people are like, well, we don't need these entry level people that we can pay a little money because we'll just have AI do it. And
Right.
then people are like, but how do I crack into this field if I can't get an entry level job?
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's disrupted a lot of industries for sure. I'm fine with it parsing medical data, you know.
Yeah. Like if you tell me if I have cancer, please, like, please
Yeah,
look at that.
but
Like,
like don't make your book cover.
right.
Hire a
Yeah.
person. Like I found
Right.
Hmm.
out 4 books in that they used AI to do this, and I'm like, oh my God, it's a queer author. I love the story. It's so well written. And then I realized they were all AI generated covers. And I was like, well, I'll never know what happens, I
Yeah.
guess.
Well, and it's so the other thing too is like it's getting really tricky because like it used to be you could go on Canva Pro and find like graphics and images and they were created by people. And
Right.
now that stuff is also starting to get flooded by AI. So you're like, how do I like because that's what I use for my book covers is like a lot of my nonfiction stuff like are photos that I take, but like for my novel and a novella I wrote, like I went into Canva and I was like, let me clip art some images essentially. It's like basically like digital collaging, right? But now I'm like,
Mhm.
well, shit, how do I know if this is
Hmm.
AI or not? Because every
Yeah.
company is forcing it in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's not going to be so in your face that like this isn't. Can I filter by AI, non-AI,
Right. Right.
or
I would like to be able to filter by that, and it's not an option right now.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think
It's
it
getting very
should be.
embedded.
Yeah, it should be. I tried to buy a mouse pad the other day and I wanted to get one by a real artist. No dice. Like
A mouse
Etsy
pad.
was all AI. And they would say like, "Oh yeah, I used AI to make this, or I partially used AI to make this." And I'm like,
Uh,
not fucking interested.
I got mine
I
from a leather artist at the back of Craft Show a few years ago. So this
Oh,
is just a leather
cool.
one. Yeah.
I do like that. I like Etsy when you create a listing on Etsy, like Etsy does ask that question
Yeah, hopefully
of
you're
like,
honest about it.
right. And that's the thing is like, are you honest or not? But I do think like there needs to be more transparency so that people can opt out.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah, agreed. Anyway, we've gotten way off topic. We've got like
I
a
know, sorry.
couple more questions for you, and then we're already over time by half an hour. Sorry.
No
Um,
worries. I'm
uh,
notorious for being like the longest podcast
I think
guest on any podcast I go on.
I think this has been great conversation. I feel like we've covered a lot, and
Yeah, I
agreed,
love it.
agreed.
it's like
Yeah.
added on from the book, so it's great.
My last question for you is, do you feel the same way about social media now, the way that you did back when you wrote this book? Like, it doesn't count as shipping, it's not whatever it was, I don't
So
remember.
yeah. So like it's funny because I did like pull that chapter up specifically before we chatted because I was like, what did I say about like social media in terms of shipping? I still don't think it is the most effective form of shipping. Um, I will say, like going back to my earlier conversation about like, so first of all, I should say I have like stopped using pretty much all social media except for Threads, because I don't know, Instagram. I am not a video person. Like I cannot with all
Yeah.
the video. It's just not my jam. And so like Instagram is just to me, it's like so overwhelming. Like I don't
Hmm.
enjoy being on there anymore. And I don't really enjoy like I've created video, it's fine. Like also short form video is not my jam. Like if you want me to, as evidenced by the world's longest podcast guest, like if you want me to talk for 15 seconds, I can't do it. I can
Right.
make a 15-minute rant video all day long. But
Yeah.
like you want a quick little video, that's not me. And also like I cannot pick music. Like
Ooh.
nothing stresses me out more than having to pick a song. Like I've always felt like the art school girl who does not have the cool taste in music. And now you want me to like publicly pick music all the time on a picture? Like
Yeah.
absolutely not. So
Yeah, I don't need audio with my pictures. No,
I
thank
don't need
you.
audio with my pictures. It's so painful. So like I just really soured on like Instagram, and then like Pinterest is just a cesspool of AI these days. So
Yes.
like and I do occasionally jump on, but like it's not so much has changed with that algorithm that like it's been hard to crack. So I kind of was like completely away from social media, hence the retail shows. And then um one of my coaching clients has been using Threads a lot. And so she was talking about how she's been using it. And I was like, let me just like, I had gotten into Threads once and then I felt like it got toxic too quick.
Mm-hmm.
It was a whole thing. And so I like went away from it. And I hate that it's meta. Like that's a whole other thing. But I was like, let me just jump on here. And then I started seeing like opportunities to promote my novel. And I was like, you know what? Like this feels like a space that I can go into. Like there's a lot of really active, like people will be like, can I have like book recommendations? Some of it is for like, engagement bait, but some of it is people are like legitimately looking for books. And so I just like bop around Threads and I'm like, yeah, here's what my
Mm,
novel's about.
yeah.
Like, here's what my novel's about. Here's where you can buy it. Cause again, I'm
Right.
asking for the sale. So like, for me, that feels a little bit like shipping, right? Because I'm doing the thing where I'm like, here's my thing, go buy it. But
Mm-hmm.
I would still, and I do feel like it does, like in this particular instance, like it does move the needle. And like my coaching client, she's using it to promote like, um, she has a program where she talks about how like to help 2D artists like license their art to hotels because that's what she does. And so like she uses it to promote that, and she's kind of on there talking about that. So I do think that it can it can be a form of shipping, but I think two things. One, like if it's going to be your main form of shipping, which I don't think it should be, that's number two. But if it is going to be like a primary form of shipping, you have to ship the shit out of it. Like you have to like the sheer amount of posting that you have to do to move the needle, I think people wildly underestimate. And so like if
Yeah.
you're going to do it, be like all in
Because there's
and
so
do it.
much. You're like
There's
dropping a teardrop into
so
a lake.
right.
It's
It's like
like
a
it's
little
so congested.
right.
Yeah.
But like when I think about it, like in terms of like using it to promote my novel, like I'm like, okay, I'm trying to start the avalanche, but like all I have right now is like the little stone, and I'm just like pushing it and pushing it and
Mm-hmm.
pushing it and trying to make
Mm-hmm.
the snowball a little bigger, right? So then like that's my second thing is like, even if you use that as a form of shipping, it shouldn't be your only one because it's just too hard. So like what else are you doing? So like like one of the things that I talk about a lot in my mentorship program is this idea of OPAs, which are like other people's audiences. And so that is like the best way to grow is how can you leverage other people's audiences? And I consider going to a retail show leveraging other people's audiences, right? Someone else
Sure.
has built that audience up. When I
Mm-hmm.
say OPAs, a lot of times people are like, oh, like I don't want to work with influencers. And I'm like, that's not what it's about, right? Like it's any way that you can get your work with someone else can showcase what you're doing. Like I said, like I don't care if you didn't like my book, if you're talking about my book, like this is other people's audiences, right? Like i'm
Mm-hmm.
i'm tapping into that. And so I think that you have to also think about forms of shipping that put you in front of other people's audiences. So like one of the other things I did last year with my novel was there was a so my novel is like this fantasy set in a world where people travel through woven tapestries. So it's all about weaving and tapestry. And so there's like a tapestry teacher that I had read her book, and I knew she blogs about other books. And so I just like internet stalked her and found her address. Okay. It was really easy. It's in her email. Like I joined her email list. Guess what's at the bottom of her email list? Her
Her
PO box.
address.
Mm.
So I mailed her a copy of my book, and like this was a real slow payoff, right? Like but then eventually she read it. And, I put a little note with it, and she read it, and she um ended up being like, can I mention this? Like, can I review it? And I was like, please, pretty please.
Yep.
And then like that was, let me be clear, like I'm hardly selling any novels. I'm just using this as my example because this is where I've been working on. But like that was my best sales month for my novel, was like when she talked about it to her audience. And so like, yes, you can ship on social media, but how else can you ship that puts your work in front of someone else's audience? And maybe that's sending it to other people on social media. Like maybe it's doing exchanges. Like there
Mm-hmm.
was like one of the things that I was doing when I first launched like the stacking rings is because I have like a big collection of ceramics. I was like, here's me wearing color coordinated stacking rings with like Heidi's mug, right? And then Heidi's like,
Mm-hmm.
can I repost that picture? I'm like, please. So like, how can you also think collaboratively about what you're shipping, whether that's sending product or buying product and like sharing photos or whatever that is, right? Like, I think,
Mm-hmm.
yes, you can ship on social media, but it can't be your only ship.
Right. Mm.
Question answered. Thank you.
I know that was like a really long answer to your question, Taylor.
Yeah, I love that one. I guess my last question is pricing related. So, what conditions would you say assures someone that they're charging the right price or about the right price for their products?
So, what do you mean by conditions?
Conditions like some of it's like like do I feel
Yeah,
like I'm struggling to keep
yeah,
up, or
yeah,
do I feel like I'm getting paid enough, or do I feel like I can pay myself this month, or I don't
yeah.
know. That's what conditions is kind of broad, but
Yeah.
like,
No, so that makes sense. Cause like my first gut answer to that is like, well, if you're profitable at wholesale price, then your pricing is right. But I was like, I don't think that's what Ryan's asking.
mhm,
So I think so like one of the things that I tell people to look at in their businesses is like, are you on a marketing hamster wheel or are you on a production hamster wheel? So if you're on a marketing hamster wheel, it means like you're not you're not selling out, you're not selling the things you want because you're just not hitting enough of your right audience. But what I see, and I see it a lot in ceramics, is people are on a production hamster wheel. So like they're like, I'm constantly selling out, but I never have any money. And so like
Mm.
that's the benchmark of you're underpriced, right? Like if you're like, I'm constantly selling out, and I'm not making a profit, I always feel like I'm broke. That means
mhm,
you're undercharging, right? So like
yeah,
it's better to like
I feel
sell,
like that's the dream for most ceramic artists that are out there on social media. They would love
right?
to sell out.
It is the dream to sell
Yes.
out, right? And so like if you're selling out and you're like I'm making all the money I need to make, then your pricing is good, right? But if you're like, okay, I just sold out of my collection and it's going to be, because again, long time frame, right? It's going to be a month till I have another load out of the kiln and I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills between this sold out launch and the next sold out launch, or like, and again, if you're like, I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills because like I only sold 3 pots, that's a whole different conversation, right? Um, but then the so like I think that's one thing is like, are you constantly like
So there's
not
enough
keeping up
demand,
with
there's not enough
demand?
supply. Yeah.
Right. So like, are you constantly not keeping and that's just simple, just like just raise your prices. Just raise them, like,
Hmm.
which I know is scary because you're like, but I sold out. And like, what if I don't sell out? And it's like, okay, then if you raise them, first of all, you can make more money with less work. But then now suddenly you have like, okay, you didn't sell out. Maybe you have 5 extra pieces that didn't sell this time, whereas like you're used to selling out. Great. How can you ship those in other ways? Could they go to the gallery you've been wanting to work with and you haven't been able to? Could you send them to an influencer or send them to the press, or could you donate one to like a charity auction to raise money for a cause that's important, right? Like, when you have that little bit of extra, now you can do other things with it. um so I think that's a marker. But then look around at other people that are doing, like, that are successfully doing what you want to be doing, and mirror their pricing. Like, it's so easy for artists to be like, well, this person's been doing it for 20 years, or like this person's been doing it for whatever. But like at the end of the day, if you are a potter in Kentucky and you are the biggest fan of Ryan and you're like, I want to be like Ryan, but I'm not Ryan, so I can't charge as much. Like, your cost of living and their cost of living is the same, right? So
Hmm.
like, look at those people and just charge what they're charging, because if they've been doing this for 5, 10, 20 years, they actually know what they need to price at to survive. And then on top of that, they're going to like you better because you're not undercutting them.
Mm. I like that.
Because
I,
that's the
I
other
always
thing.
recommend the shows to people because I'm like, if you're trying to figure out shows, look at a schedule of somebody that you
Mm-hmm.
admire shows and you make similar
Yeah.
stuff. Just copy the shows that they're doing, sign up for the
Oh,
same
yeah.
shows and see if it
100%.
works.
That was literally how I started my business back in like 06, 07, when I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what shows are. Like, the internet was still a little young. And so I was like, okay, here are the artists I like. Let me look at their show schedule. I'm just going to apply to all those shows. And that was literally what I did to start my business.
Hmm. Because there's always a lot of variables, right? At least
Yeah.
I'm glad you said Kentucky. So it's like same cost of living versus
Right.
like, oh, I should charge the same because we're all selling in the same market of online together. So
Right.
the price should be the same. But also, I have a full-time job and I don't rely on my income from the business to
Yeah.
support me, as well as, I live in Kentucky and I don't, have to rent a studio space or whatever. Like,
Right.
there's a lot of variables, but
There's so many variables, but at the same time, like, if you are looking around at like what people who are selling consistently are doing and you're like significantly lower than them, you're probably undercharging and you're also probably pissing people off, right? Like, I taught a pricing workshop down in Delaware for this amazing group called the Developing Artist Collab down in Rehoboth Beach. And so there was one woman in my pricing thing where she's like, she made knit hats and she's like, she was older, she was retired. She's like, I just knit while my husband's watching TV, and like I don't really need to like make money. And so like she was selling them for like $10 a hat or something. And like literally before I could say anything, like everybody else in the thing was like jumped on her and was like, no, no, you don't understand. Like, you're devaluing all the rest of our work. Like, please charge more. Um, so yeah, I think it's important.
hmm. Yeah, I feel like I've seen some conversations about the pricing side of it more recently about
Yeah.
the what you should try. Like some of it was you shouldn't be concerned what other people are charging because it's up to them to decide what they want to charge and you can't really do anything about that. But yeah, I don't know.
My favorite
Hmm.
pricing exercise is to go out and like look for the most expensive version of whatever it is I can find. So if someone's like, I don't know, I sell mugs, I'm like, oh, here's a person who sells mugs for like $200. Like, let's like that doesn't mean that you have to charge that, but like for me, I'm always like, what's the most expensive thing? I want to see what's possible.
Hmm. And then it seems like even if they can charge $100 for a mug, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're killing it and they're like making amazing income. It could be that they're in a high cost of living and they're just scraping by at $100 mug.
Right. You don't know. Like you don't know what the behind the scenes of anyone's business looks
Hmm.
like. So that's ultimately why like you do have to run your own numbers and you do have to look at that stuff for yourself. But it's still useful to look around and see what other people are selling for.
Hmm.
Except don't look on Etsy. That's like way undercharging.
I had a
You
great
may not
Etsy year
know that
last year.
Ryan is big enough on Etsy that he was invited to their conference.
No, I was invited to their holiday pop-up thing last in
Ryan is what
2024.
we call an Etsy hoe.
Yeah,
So I
he's
will
a
say
whore for
that
Etsy.
I will actually say that Etsy is one of my try it and see marketing strategies that I've been doing for the last 6 months. And I'm actually working on rebuilding my Etsy shop. So like there's no judgment to people who sell on Etsy because I'm like, I see you guys making some money over there on Etsy and like I
There's
want to get in
so
on that
much
game.
buyers there. Like,
So many buyers there, and like if you have things that people are looking for, like it is a smart play. I was like pretty OG Etsy. Like I started my Etsy shop in 2007, but it never was like a big thing. And this year I'm like, no, I want to get that Etsy money. Like
plus
people are I want that.
you got the product photography down, you've got
Right,
the production
right,
figured out, you can
exactly.
sell it and meet the demand. Like the turnaround
Yeah.
time is so quick. I feel like you've
Oh
got
yeah,
the
no,
perfect
like that's the
model
thing.
for it.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. That is one of my strategies for 2026. Like so no shade to Etsy sellers because I am jumping back in those waters. Uh just it's not always the best place to look for your pricing. And honestly, my Etsy prices are higher than my website prices to
Hmm.
so that I can offer
Well, yeah.
free shipping.
And you have to
Hmm.
be nickel and dimed over there, you know.
But yeah, so
Yeah. Becca, we saved the last question for you if you have one.
I'm ready for it.
Becca, are you there?
Do, 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 do,
I did
do.
not realize my audio was on mute.
Oh, hi.
I
Welcome
have
back.
a very quick question for you before we close. Megan, what is your favorite color?
Oh, so I have a color that I powder coat called soft mint. So I'm like a real pale mint green person. That is my favorite. Second is like a kind of a darker gray that I like to refer to jokingly as Megan Almond gray because like it was my brand color for a long time. So I have two answers, but if you really push me, I would say mint, but like real pale
Mint.
mint.
Okay.
Good,
I
good,
think
good, good,
I
good
see some
answer.
product photo. Okay, stacking ring and soft mint. Is that the mint you're talking about?
Yeah,
It's
Okay.
cute.
that's my color. That's
That's
my
nice.
color. Yeah, the floor of my studio is painted that color.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's a great idea because I'm always dropping shit and I can't find it because my floor's
Yeah,
marbled.
I pulled off the carpet and I was too cheap to put down other flooring, so I just painted like a really cool color block thing because
I
my studio
love
is also
that.
like 600 square feet. So I was like, let's just paint it.
Hmm. Yeah, that sounds a little better than the gray concrete floor when we stripped up the studio floor carpet,
Yeah,
painted
I
it
would have
gray.
absolutely painted. I'm all about painted floors. It's like that was a Pinterest influence that like I just went down a rabbit hole. So I will
Mm,
paint any floor anytime.
yeah. Probably makes the studio look better in photos and stuff too if you were to capture that. Maybe.
It
If
did
it's
when I
clean.
first moved in. Now it's too messy.
Okay,
But
it's
it
too
looked great
dirty.
when I first did it. So
Okay. All right. So, Megan, appreciate your time. If folks would like to check you out, whether it's designing an MBA or the other site, I'm trying to remember what it is,
artists and
Artists and
profit
Profit
makers, yeah.
Makers. There you go. Where can they find you, or another book that maybe from your collection that you would recommend if they've read this one and you
Yeah,
want them to step
so
up to the next one?
yeah, so you can go to artistandprofitmakers.com is my coaching site. Designing an MBA still exists, but like it all kind of kicks to artistandprofitmakers.com these days. But then if you go to my store at shop.meganauman.com, Try It and See is like definitely my mindset book. But then I have books on email marketing. So if you heard that like whole, I can just, here's a thing, go buy it email, and you want an entire book that like tells you that's okay to do that, but also gives you some strategy. I've got an email marketing book. I have an entire book on pricing, and I have a book on selling to stores. So if you are looking for some more like in-depth stuff, again, you can go to my website, shop.meganauman.com. I've got books, I've got classes there. Yeah. And then I'm at Megan Auman on pretty much all social media, but the only one I'm really active on these days is Threads. But my Instagram still looks pretty, so you can go there
It
too.
still looks pretty. That's nice.
Looks nice. I have to because shows look at it. Like shows look at your Instagram when they decide.
Right.
So like the Instagram still looks pretty. I just don't post very often.
Right. Yeah, that it depends on the show you're at. That they,
Yeah.
I feel like if you're applying on Zapplication, they're probably looking at the photos and all that. Like they don't ask for your website or maybe they
Right.
do ask for your website, but they don't ask for your social media. And then there's some that are like
They
more
don't.
indie markets and they ask for it. So
Yeah. A lot of the indie markets look at it, which is a lot of what I do because my work
yeah,
my work works there. So
yeah, yeah, I can see that. Nice. Well, thank you so much,
yeah.
Megan, for joining
Yeah.
us.
Thank you
We
guys for
appreciated the
having
time. It
me.
was fun to do the book club and then followed up with the author and like hear a little bit more about your business as well as some of the strategies and stuff you're talking about. So
Yeah, I love it. Thank you guys for having me, and thanks for asking the real questions. Like I appreciate Becca's money questions, and like yeah, I
yeah.
think it's so important to talk about all that stuff. So thank you.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
All right. Bye. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to another episode of Wheel Talk. This podcast is made possible through the contributions of all of our listeners who always ask us great questions, leave us reviews, and contact with us through social media. Thanks to all the fellow makers as well who take time to be interviewed and share about their lives and businesses.
And thank you to Ashley from Boldover Ceramics and Lindy from Lindy Garner Ceramics for their assistance on the Whale Talk Podcast Instagram. You are invaluable. Thank you to everybody.